Was the Roman Empire already crumbling before you even knew it? Did emperors spend more time arguing about God than fighting barbarians? And could a single decree truly unite a fractured world? Let's dive into the chaotic, surprisingly spicy story of late Roman Britain, the rise of a Spanish king, and the church wars that threatened to tear the empire apart, all before the Dark Ages even thought about arriving. It's 383. The air in Rome smells of ambition, sweat, and simmering resentment. Emperor Theodosius I, a man obsessed with order, is desperately trying to hold his vast empire together. He's just finished squashing the Goths, unifying the church, sort of, and generally acting like the most powerful guy in the world. But the Roman province of Britannia, that's modern-day Britain, is a simmering pot of trouble. It's a remote, windswept island far from the heart of the empire, and its legions are restless. For decades, Britannia had been a source of trouble. The local population, a mix of Romano-British people who had Romanized to a degree and native Celts, weren't exactly thrilled about being ruled by Romans. There were rebellions, raids, and a general sense of "we'd rather be left alone." The Roman army, stretched thin across the empire, struggled to maintain control. And then, in 382, something utterly bizarre happened. A Spanish general named Magnus Maximus decided he'd had enough. Magnus Maximus wasn't some low-level officer. He was a decorated veteran, a rising star, and crucially, he had the unwavering loyalty of the troops stationed in Britannia. Think of it like a really, really bad workplace revolt, but with swords and shields. He'd been quietly consolidating power for years, essentially acting as the de facto ruler of the province, building roads, suppressing bandits, and generally keeping things running. The local governor, a hapless fellow named Lucius, wasn't exactly putting up a fight. Suddenly, Maximus declared himself emperor, not in Rome, not in Constantinople, but in Britannia. He claimed to be the rightful heir to the throne, citing some obscure family connection to the previous emperor. It was the kind of claim that would have been laughable if it wasn't so effective. The legions in Britannia, smelling opportunity and a chance to finally be in charge, rallied to his banner. The news sent shockwaves through Rome. Theodosius, a man who valued order above all else, was furious. He'd carefully engineered a situation where he controlled Britannia, and now this Spanish upstart was trying to snatch it away. He immediately dispatched troops to put down the rebellion, but they were met with surprisingly fierce resistance. Maximus's forces weren't just a ragtag bunch of disgruntled soldiers, they were a well-trained, motivated army fighting for their own independence. Meanwhile, back in Rome, the church was having its own drama. Bishop Jerome, a brilliant but notoriously prickly scholar, was tasked with translating the Bible into Latin. This was a huge deal. The Bible had always been written in Greek, the language of the educated elite. Jerome's translation would make the scriptures accessible to a wider audience, but it also sparked a furious dispute between Rome and Constantinople. The bishops of Rome, traditionally considered the most important in the church, asserted their authority over Jerome and his translation. The bishops of Constantinople, eager to assert their own power, challenged the Roman claim. It was a classic power struggle, playing out in the halls of the Vatican and the churches of the East. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a gladius. Theodosius, caught between a rebellious province and a theological war, was in a pickle. He needed to crush Maximus, but he also needed to maintain the unity of the church. He tried to appease both sides, sending troops to Britannia, issuing decrees about the Bible, and generally trying to hold everything together with a combination of force and diplomacy. But Britannia was proving to be a stubborn problem. Maximus, a shrewd and ruthless commander, continued to expand his territory, incorporating more and more of the province under his control. He wasn't just fighting for independence, he was building a new kingdom, a Romano-British kingdom ruled by a Spanish king. Theodosius eventually decided to take a more direct approach. He launched a full-scale invasion of Britannia, sending a massive army across the Channel. But the British forces, bolstered by Maximus's troops, put up a surprisingly strong defense. The fighting was brutal, the weather miserable, and the campaign dragged on for months. Then, in 390, disaster struck. Theodosius died suddenly, leaving a power vacuum and a deeply divided empire. His son Arcadius took the throne in the east, while his disgraced son Honorius ruled in the west. Both were young, inexperienced, and utterly unprepared to deal with the crises facing the empire, and Britannia was at the heart of the problem. Maximus, sensing an opportunity, declared himself emperor of the entire Roman Empire, a move that was met with outrage and disbelief in Rome. He was, essentially, a rebel king claiming to be the rightful ruler of the world. The Western Roman Empire, already weakened by internal divisions and external threats, was in chaos. Honorius, desperate for help, appealed to Theodoric the Great, the powerful ruler of the Ostrogoths, a Germanic tribe who had been allied with the Romans for centuries. Theodoric, seeing an opportunity to expand his own territory, agreed to intervene. In 395, Theodoric led his Goths against Britannia. Maximus, realizing he was hopelessly outmatched, fled to the island of Wight, where he was eventually captured and executed. Britannia was now firmly under Gothic control, but the story doesn't end there. A few years later, in 396, a new player entered the scene: Silla, a small kingdom in the southern part of the Korean peninsula. Silla, tired of being overshadowed by its more powerful neighbors, Beach and Goguryeo, saw an opportunity to exploit the chaos in Britannia. They allied themselves with the Goths and launched an invasion of the province. The combined forces of Silla and the Goths quickly overwhelmed the remaining Roman defenders. Britannia fell to Silla, and the last vestiges of Roman rule in the province vanished. The fall of Britannia was a devastating blow to the Roman Empire. It marked the end of Roman control over the island and a significant step towards the decline of the empire. But it was also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the unpredictable nature of history. Magnus Maximus, the Spanish king who briefly ruled Britannia, is now a figure of legend. Some historians view him as a hero, a defender of liberty who dared to challenge the authority of the Roman Empire. Others see him as a ruthless opportunist, a power-hungry warlord who exploited the chaos of the empire for his own gain. Whatever his motivations, Maximus's reign in Britannia had a profound impact on the island's history. It ushered in a new era, an era of Gothic rule, followed by Silla domination. It also contributed to the gradual fusion of Roman and Celtic cultures, creating the unique identity of modern-day Britain. And the Church? Well, the theological disputes continued for centuries. The rivalry between Rome and Constantinople never truly ended. The translation of the Bible into Latin became a cornerstone of Western Christianity, while the Greek version remained dominant in the East. So the next time you think about the Roman Empire, remember Britannia. Remember Magnus Maximus, the Spanish king who briefly ruled a lost province. Remember the church wars, the political intrigues, and the sheer chaos of a world on the brink of collapse. Was the Roman Empire already crumbling before you even knew it? Did emperors spend more time arguing about God than fighting barbarians? And could a single decree truly unite a fractured world? The story of late Roman Britain and the church wars that accompanied it offers a fascinating glimpse into the complexities of empire, the power of ambition, and the enduring legacy of faith. It's a reminder that history isn't always neat and tidy. Sometimes it's just a messy, chaotic struggle for power, religion, and survival. And if you're wondering, does anyone actually know what happened to Bishop Jerome and his Latin Bible? Well, that's a story for another time.